and Martin is going to join us in the middle.
Okay. All right, so we are live. Thank you all for being here. I don't know, Fred, if Martin told you about this. The idea of Demo Day is to give these guys that have been working so hard for the last month and a half or 2 months the opportunity to present their work, to wrap everything up. We are all programmers here. We know that not everything is just about code. We can all...
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the hard part is estimating, communicating with teams, defining requirements.
Okay, technical issues again. You're muted.
I'm not.
You are, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Anyway, the idea is for them to have the opportunity to put all that knowledge they have gathered throughout this process in a real project. The idea is that they will present what they have done, what they wanted to achieve. You know that they decided the goal and the scope of the project beforehand. They will present what they have done, what they couldn't do, because as we all know, we never meet the deadlines. And they will just share the experience. It shouldn't take too long. And before everything else, we want to thank the jury. And Martin, can you introduce them both?
So I'm going to take a couple of minutes to introduce each member of the jury. Let's start with Ignacio. So Ignacio, it's mainly called Nacho. We are all called Nacho. So Nacho is our friend. We've been friends like for 6-7 years. We have worked together in a lot of projects. He's a great and awesome Python developer. He's actually in this moment living in Barcelona in Spain, but he's from Argentina. And he's currently working in an American company called Bitpagos. They are processing payments with Bitcoin mainly. So Nacho, thank you very much for being here.
Okay, thanks.
This is our second instance of the demo day, and he was also jury in the last one. So thank you very much again.
So I'm being something like a constant member of the juries. I don't know what it means, but thank you all, guys.
No, thank you. Okay, so there we have Martin. Do you hear me? No. Okay. So let's continue with Frederick. Fred, thank you very much for being here. We currently work together in a German company called TrackDelight. He's at the moment like the front-end development leader. He's a great and awesome front-end developer, one of the greatest I know actually. And thank you very much for being here. You are currently living in Berlin, right?
Yes.
You have moved like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago actually.
2 weeks ago, okay. So perfect. He was.
The shelves were still empty.
I can see that. He was previously living in Munich, I think, and he's now living in Berlin. So, Fred, seriously, thank you very much for being here, for taking this time to share this with us. Okay.
Thank you for having me. So.
No, it's okay. I think well, Martin is not here yet, so I think we can keep moving, and he's going to join later.
Okay, so the first group, it's actually Ross by himself because Gordon couldn't make it, the other guy, the other member of the group. So Ross, this is all yours. Oh, Martin is back. Martin?
Hey, Martin, do you hear me?
You hear us?
Yep.
How are you, man?
How you doing?
Great.
I'm great. So let me take 1 more minute to introduce Martin so we close this topic. Martin, also known as the Ninja, he's a friend of mine from the university. We know each other like 5-6 years ago, and we have also been working together. He's a great Python, C, C++, JavaScript, everything coder, and well, actually, he's one of the main contributors in a very big open source project called Ninja IDE. It's a text editor, or yeah, it's an IDE for working in Python, completely written in Python. So it's really amazing project, and Martin is one of the main contributors. So Martin, do you want to say something?
Hey, nice to meet you all, guys.
Thank you very much for being here.
No, thank you for the invitation. My pleasure. As Martin said, I'm a Python developer from Argentina, but just that, just a simple Python developer.
That's awesome. Okay,
So
let's
Ross,
keep moving.
all yours.
Okay. So, give me 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen.
Ross, do you want to make a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. My name is Ross. I work as a freelance developer. I have been coding with Python for about 18 months, I think. I never remember exactly when I started. But I have experience of doing sort of full stack development, but have a very strong passion for Python, especially after the great tutorials from Santi and the guys. Yeah, that's me really. I'm based over in Amsterdam, and I'm going to be getting married soon. So
that was the original problem, right?
Yeah. I'm actually I'm on the eve of my stag do. I'm from Bristol. So I'm based in the southwest. Yes. Okay, so let me share my screen with you guys. So originally we wanted to create a web application that allowed people to stay up to date with teams from England, Germany, Brazil, France and Spain, with a particular view of finding out if players were injured, and also to find out a particular player's stats, essentially. While there were websites out there that did both of these things in separate instances, there was nothing that really showed both of these pieces of data together. And so we were really looking at trying to consolidate that data to make it a one-stop point for football fans to keep up to date with their teams and other people within their league. We wanted to make a bootstrap site to make it fairly simple, which was going to be responsive. And we were looking to incorporate two different types of functionality on the back end. The first was actually using a scraping tool to go off and collect data on the injured players. And then the other was to use an API that went off and called on the player's current team and rating. We did actually struggle a fair bit on finding an API that provided that data that was both up to date, free, and provided the information for the different leagues that we'd selected at the beginning. We wanted to then include the opportunity for people to have the ability to filter by a particular league or by a particular team, and also search the site for a particular player. What else was there? Yes, generally then it was just laying out the scope of work in terms of the database usage that we were looking to use, how the site was going to be hosted, and anything else that we felt was relevant as part of that project. The idea came from an original project that my partner had started developing that was available on the GitHub repository shown. And essentially we were looking to marry those items into a Django application to deliver a web interface. And so we started mapping out the database models that we were looking to use, and we identified that they were going to be the leagues, teams and players that were going to be the main class objects. And then we started to break those down in terms of the information that we felt would be relevant within each of those models to provide the information to the end user. So for the league, it was the name, the URL slug, the badge of the league, the team, likewise, that was related to the league, and then obviously the player. And we also had an edge scope item which was trying to work out the number of games that a particular player had missed based on how many games had happened since they had become injured, so since their status had been set to becoming injured. The problem that we encountered was that we started off and we decided to, sorry, that's the wrong project. Please bear with me 1 second. For some reason it's not showing the project.
You should use Ninja IDE.
Right. Yeah, so the problem that we encountered was that we decided to split the project into two where we felt both of our strengths lay. Because I'd been using Django for the whole of my time programming in Python, that's been my main source of experience. I was going to take control of the web aspect, and because Gordon had started building the scrapers already, he was going to take care of the scrapers. And we went through together to lay out the Django project, and we put all of the elements in place and started setting up all of the views that we felt that we needed and the models that were going to be needed for the different database objects. Mm-hmm. And the point of difficulty then came when we took the web scraper that Gordon had written, which originally used a piece of which used a library called Ghost. And the reason that he chose to use Ghost was because one of the sites that you can see here that was on the original scraper actually had JavaScript that needed to be rendered first into HTML in order for it to be scraped. We found that then when we tried to convert the tool into using Django models, that we were getting an error with the requirement of Ghost needing Qt, I think it was, or PySide, and we tried for a few hours to get that to work, and unfortunately ended up just hitting a wall. We just could not get it to work, and instead what was ending up happening was we were getting a whole host of terminal errors every time it was iterating through the elements within the tree, which then maxed out the computer, which then caused Python to completely crash. So we only discovered that, unfortunately, this week, which was obviously quite late in the game. Gordon then went away and looked to try and use a package called Grab to provide a similar functionality. And the first chance that I had to incorporate that into the system was today. And again, we ran into an issue where when we tried to run the piece of code to see if it updated the database, it was coming up then with an error with, I can't remember the name of it now, sorry. Called libcurl. And it's apparently a known issue that exists on Mac. So while this ran as a piece of independent software that wrote the information to an XML file or an Excel file, we weren't able to run it on my Mac, so I wasn't able to then incorporate it because essentially the libcurl file had a dependency for version 8, and for some reason on my system I can only receive version 7.4. So my first experience of thinking that Macs have really let me down. So that's where we are, unfortunately. So the next steps, I mean, we're not finishing here. We would like to get this to work because Gordon and I are both interested in the end result in terms of the data that it's going to present. And yeah, so it's back to the drawing board and trying to find a solution to actually scrape the sites to get the data that is compatible.
So I like the jury to at least provide their comments. There are a couple of things interesting how they split the work. the technology, the difference, or the problems they have regarding different platforms. So whoever wants to start providing feedback, I think is going to be really useful for these two guys. Fred?
So Roscoe, I have a question for you. I don't know if I get what right about how your site is going to work, but my thought is about more about the model or the general idea that you have with this site. Who is going to be the user or the user that is going to consume all these services?
So it would be football fans essentially. Me myself, I do often go back onto sites that will let you know when a player is due to come back to the team.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you follow a particular team, that's of key interest, especially if it's one of your star players. The stats side of thing is interesting for people that are interested in the sort of stat side of things around the sport. And one of the things that I find particularly interesting is around the transfer markets, where you then find out how well a player is ranked within the system versus the amount of money they get bought for. And you often find that players will be bought when they're injured, and to have that as a double set of information is quite useful.
Right. So, already, besides the parsing problem that you have, what other problems comes to you when building this site? Or the second thing, more important.
What other problems can I foresee?
Yeah, about the second one, for example, in your priority list. So, which was the second problem that came to you that has all these troubles with the project? It could be any kind of problem about coordination with the other teammates, your own skill,
No,
problems, technical issues.
Oh no, the main problem for me has just been time.
Yeah.
100% time.
So yeah, I think the problem was like the estimation. You were like 3 weeks ago, you thought about the scope in this project, and you thought like you were totally available and you were able to reach a lot of features and things, but things happens and you are going to get married soon and things are not like you were thinking before.
No.
That's the main problem, I think, estimation. But it's totally fine. It's part of the learning process, of course.
Yeah.
Fred, can you hear us?
Sorry?
Yes.
So the guys split the work. What do you think about? I imagine you guys have a pretty large team and you work with different technologies, and they chose to divide the work kind of in a blind side. Once Ross said to do something, and then Gordon said to do something else, and they were expecting to just one day put both things together. What do you think about that?
Well, actually, hang on. Let me clarify that a little bit more.
Oh yeah, please.
So the web scraping stuff is something that I'd previously done, and because Gordon had pretty much built that side of the project up to the point of integration, he just needed to expand it into the different leagues. I didn't feel that there was much reason for me to then sit over his shoulder and see what he was doing. When we were doing the Django side of the programming, we were making sure that we were both on the call, so I was showing Gordon very much so, how Django projects are put together, how the URLs put together, the views, etc. So there was an element of communication around it. It wasn't completely separate. But
No, yeah. I was just expecting for Fred, with his experience, managing large teams, to provide comments.
We are not that large actually, but
it's not really large.
But yeah, maybe. I mean, the main feedback in this project, as the project's not finished and we don't have anything like material to see working, the main feedback we can give is something completely non-technical. So if you have anything to add on that topic.
I'd be interested in one thing actually. Me being like the one non-Python guy around here. I mean, from what I understand, you struggled a lot with like it wouldn't like execute, like render the JavaScript and everything, and you didn't get that. Have you thought of like using something non-Python for that? Because like I just know like with Phantom.js this is like really easy. So maybe if I mean this is a Python course of course, but if it just didn't work, maybe it would be like an opportunity to like do this somewhere else. Have you ever thought of this? Tried anything like this or?
No, no, I haven't. So my experience of using web scrapers has always been through using a package called Beautiful Soup, and that's always been just to pull, already rendered HTML pages.
Yeah.
So I'm not aware. I wasn't aware of any other packages that were needed. In fact, I only discovered about this when Gordon said to me when we were having problems with Ghost that was actually a requirement, a necessity. So it's definitely something that I'm now aware of. But yeah, so I'd be interested to find out what other technologies and techniques are out there to handle that.
Well, you actually, Fred, you could use Phantom.js with Selenium.
No.
So you could still use Python.
What I've seen, considering that you want to use Python, right? Because this is a Python course. What I've seen is that you try to re-implement your own scrapping machine, and there are a few projects out there that are working really well. For example, it come to my mind one called Scrappy. I don't know if you have ever heard about that.
I have, yes.
It's a really handy framework for scrapping, and you have like all the difficult stuff already resolved, like multi-threading, and I don't know. You just have to implement your spider. That is one particular class where you define how to process one particular site, and everything else is completely done. So I will write it here, Scrappy, something like this.
Yep.
If you want to take a look at it later, it's a great project. I've used it many times and I loved it.
So Nisha, Martin, to differentiate, Ross and Gordon had also an issue regarding technology. Ross, I think Ross, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Gordon was using something, and when Ross tried to execute it in his own machine, they had issues because they were having different platforms. What advice or what are your comments regarding that? The platform where people develop, every developer will develop in their own platforms, and the platform where you have to execute, and what can you add to that?
Yeah, I got it. The first thing it came to my mind is when you try to solve a problem, whatever problem it will be, first you have to take your time in order to research what is out there. As Martin say, you can go and pick up Scrappy or Phantom or whatever, but you need to estimate that time as a project time, your research time. Then, if you start testing the framework, the libraries, whatever, they don't work as expected, then you have to start trying what you need and start building the minimal library you can get to solve your problem. And then you can go to another issue, as Santiago said, if you start working with different platforms, that's another issue you will have to solve. Make sense? So the main concern is whenever you have to start solve a problem, you have to start looking at the art, what is out there, what the developer had made before. Because if you don't pay attention to those libraries, those frameworks, you start repeating yourself every single project. And the idea behind Python itself is avoid that. Make sense?
Yeah, don't repeat yourself.
Cool.
Right. What we are using with Frederick in the company we work is Docker. You know Docker? There is
Yeah.
something handy because it makes you be independent from the platform you are. So in the case you use Docker, so anyway, if you were working in different platforms, the actual code is executing in an isolated, let's say, process or something. There's running in the same environment for everyone. Okay? So it's really useful when you are crossing platforms.
Okay, cool. So let's wrap up with Ross's comments. So we are respectful with the time of the Shure members. Martin,
Right. Just one more thing, Ross. Thank you very much for being here. We know the project is not ready, it's not complete, but we really appreciate it because this is the important thing. You being here and sharing with us this experience.
It takes balls to
I
be
really,
here.
Right.
I really appreciate the
You're cutting off, right? You hear?
Yeah.
Push your limits and try to build something.
I can't hear anything.
Hello.
Martin, you are cutting off. I know. We can't hear you correctly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on.
Okay.
So now we have, I don't know if anyone else have any final comment. We want to just wrap up. So we are respectful with everyone's time. We have then Adrian and Adrian, both Adrians. If you guys want to introduce yourselves first, and you want to introduce your project, and Martin, can you please paste their document on
It is
the
already
Hangout
there.
chat? Oh, cool.
It is already there before the one from Ross.
Okay.
Check the history.
So both Adrians, this is all yours.
Okay, I can introduce myself first. So I'm one of the Adrians. I live in Sweden, and I'm currently a student studying computer science and engineering, and almost finished with my master's degree. So this was my first time doing anything web development related. Usually I do software stuff, and I know mostly Java and a little bit of other stuff. So it was pretty interesting learning some web dev stuff. So the other Adrian can take over.
My camera's off because my internet here in South Africa is struggling under the load. I'm the other Adrian from Cape Town. I work at a company called Yola on the operations team, so I mainly work with the backend servers and automation and deployment. I'm not very familiar with Python, but have used it from time to time. I'm familiar with the operations side of Django, but not actually using Django itself. So as much as I have some sort of familiarity with Django, the cool thing about this project was actually using it and learning how it works and trying to make it do something. So I think we set the bar pretty low for what we wanted to do, so that we could achieve that and then hopefully add some features on top of that. But I think Adrian can give you a demo.
Yeah.
Cool.
First, the scope. So our app was pretty simple. The basic stuff was just we have a site where we search for a show, and then we if it has a next episode, so not a show that has ended, we will just show a countdown for when the next episode will air. So that was the basic stuff, and then we were considering some user system stuff. We decided to just make it so the user can save shows in a session instead of doing login stuff. And So our time estimation, I think, was pretty off, and but I expected that because neither of us had worked with Django, like actually doing stuff with it, and not Bootstrap or anything. So everything was new, but I still estimated things pretty on the low end. I'm not sure why, but so I think we managed to reach our scope pretty well, actually.
Can you demo the project, Adrian?
Yeah. So I'm going to demo it here. It is actually deployed, so you guys can see it too if you want.
Don't break anything, please.
Live demo.
Okay, so
I think, yeah, you should have shared the link after the demo.
it's too late. Okay, so here's the front page. It's pretty simple, just a search bar, pretty much. So let's search for something. For example, South Park. We know it's a show that's going to go on. So if we search, we get a list with results. It tells us also which year and stuff in case there's multiple. So let's say we choose South Park here. Then we get a page which tells us the countdown. So the next episode will be in 6 days. And initially we didn't have the image, but we put the image also. So we can, for example, take another show that I know is going on, Blunt Talk. So we choose that one. Then we get that one, and it tells us that the next episode will be in 2 days. So some other stuff we done. If we don't put anything in the search bar, we just get a simple error message. If we choose a show that doesn't have next episode yet, then we just get an error message that we could not get the next episode. So that's the basic countdown functionality, that the baseline for our scope. And then we also have, like, we can choose a show here, and then we add it to our session. So let's say we add South Park here. I think there should be a message here, but there's not.
There should be.
Yeah, there should be.
There you
Well,
go.
at least if we already added it, we get a warning message.
Okay.
But there should be a successful message too. Yeah, there it is. So let's add another show.
How do you guys process that call when you click on add? What is happening behind the scenes? Is there an AJAX call? Is there a full cycle? How does that work?
It is like I think it was with the URL calls, and it calls the corresponding view function, and then this button gives us the information about the show ID, and then we just add it to the session.
Just adding to that point, the way the ad works is it adds a query string to the URL called add show, which I wasn't too happy with. I would have preferred a post, but I wasn't too sure how to make a URL change to a post, and I wasn't too sure how to do it in JavaScript either. So it's sort of it's the way it is. It works, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect. You managed to solve it. That's the first step.
Yeah.
It works. So Adrian, can you guys tell us about your experience aside from the project, what you found out. I don't know, everything, some experience you found, good, bad, problems you had.
Just one more thing.
Just the last thing first. Then the shows we actually put in our session, we can click My Shows, and then we get them here. And again, we can just click it, and then we will get the countdown. So that's basically it. Adrian, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to ask you to demonstrate that feature.
Okay.
By the way, the jury at any point can stop and ask whatever. It's your time to.
Yeah, of course.
Where do you get the data? What's the source for the show data?
So we get the data from a site called tracked.tv.
Okay, and that's a public API, or do you somehow scrape this?
No, it has an API.
I think you have to register as. I mean, you have to get the API key, and you can.
Yeah, you have to like sign up and get a API key, and then you can use it.
Mm-hmm. Did you manage to test this code somehow? I mean, all the part that's communicating with the external servers?
We didn't do any testing at all, actually.
All right.
I know that's one thing we lagged.
Okay.
Any problems that you have found during the process? Anything you were surprised by? The experience with the first web, I mean, not the first, but the experience with Django in general, the front end part. Because in the course, I just want to tell Frederick and Nacho and Martin, we don't do any front end during the course, and that's just by their own. Everything you see there, it's just something they have learned by themselves.
Awesome.
And what about the deployment process? And you are one of the advanced working in the operations teams in their company. So did you have anything particular into account to deploy this application?
No, it's all manually configured on a VPS of mine, sitting behind Nginx using Unicorn for the whiskey stuff. So it's not reproducible. It's not automated or scalable or anything. Just completely manual.
It's okay. Actually, that was not part of the scope in the project, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So aside from the testing part, I don't know about comments and in the code, but aside from that, I think you were pretty much done with the scope. So the estimation was really good. The only thing is not matching, I think, is the part about the user registration, login, and setting up, or all that part. But aside from that, I mean, the estimation was really good.
Thanks.
I've seen on the GitHub repository that you use like issues and pull requests and everything. Have you used that before, or was this something? Because it looked like really professional to me, like an industry project. So did you just like happen to use this, or are you used to this kind of workflow?
For me, it's the first time using it like this, pretty much. But I have a lot of theory in the background because I'm studying for engineering, but I haven't done it practically. This was my first practical time doing it.
I can guarantee they were using pull requests because I was getting like 5 emails per day with all the pull requests and merge they were doing.
So they're working with issues. Actually, they're pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, we would discuss roughly what needed to happen beforehand, and then one of us would go and make up a whole bunch of issues, and then we would just double check each other, and then go ahead and solve those issues.
How do you merge the changes after a pull request?
The reviewer would merge, or
I mean the review. You request a pull request and you did the merge, or your partner did it for you?
Either or.
Okay.
The partner did it, or if the partner didn't want to, they could just say +1 merge when you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, usually we did it like the one that does the pull request, the other person would merge after they have taken.
Oh, really? You know, we work exactly the opposite way in the company. I mean, the person creating the pull request is the one in charge of merging it.
Yeah.
No one else is supposed to merge the pull request.
Yeah,
but
at my company,
we are also expecting for +1 or merge it, wherever you.
Yeah, at my company, we have quite a vigorous review process where people nitpick about the smallest things. But as soon as you get a +1, it's your responsibility to merge that and then deploy it to production.
Right.
But I think since since this isn't a production app, it doesn't really matter what master looks like. So it's nice to just get it in master as soon as possible, so the next person can work off that.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, you don't need to have the changes in master to keep working. You can branch the branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's just nicer to have it in master as soon as possible.
That's right.
So I don't know, Fred, not sure if you have guys checked the estimation made by both Edrons. What do you think about estimating in with particular hours? I don't know if you're seeing the document, but they have said for every task they had to do, they set up a couple of. They said how many hours they would take.
Besides the exact amount of hours that you guys already estimate each one of the tasks, there are two things that seem interesting to me. On the tools that you mentioned that you're going to use, it says Postgres and Redis, right? But then you say that you already have this thing on production, so it's very interesting to me. How do you fix the thing? Because I know that in some points that you might saw something like, okay, we are not going to meet this tool or this future. So what do we do about it? And you already have this site on production. So what happened there? How was the workflow?
So that estimation and that spec, I think, in terms of technologies used, is actually quite far off. We didn't really need a database.
Yeah.
Because we don't have users. We just have sessions which are stored in a SQLite database. We also we don't need Postgres for that. Well, it's a small site sitting on a server that nobody's going to hit. So it's not like we're going to have to.
Right, but you could use, for example, I don't recommend it, but you could use your context data. The session that you are already handling right now, you could use some keys for the user about the IPs or something like you wanted to sort the fact that you have no database right now. So
well, we do have a database. We have SQLite.
Right.
So the only thing you are doing in SQLite is the favorites, movies, or
the sessions.
The session.
Right.
Which could have been stored in memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would use in Redis also, that, as you mentioned in the document. So it's okay. My question was more related about how do you figure out that you're not going to reach that thing, and you could do it just like this on the run when you were working on it, or when do you figure out that?
I think the only time I had to figure this out was when looking at the sessions. And when reading the Django documentations, it turns out that the defaults are pretty sane for a local development environment. So I figured out at that point that we didn't really need to worry about Memcache or Redis or Postgres.
Great. So the thing is that it's something that many programmers, many of us in our current jobs is that once you have a tool, you want to use it, but then later you figure out that you don't need to use that tool. Maybe there is another tool. Maybe you haven't to use that tool. So it's very important to first understand the issue, look what tools do you have in your hand at the moment, and then figure out what tools or frameworks you will need.
Yeah, just a comment on that. The reason we wrote the tools there was because that was part of the assignment. I mean,
right. Actually, what I see here when I read the specification and the current way you deploy the application is like at the very beginning you were thinking in a really big scale application. That's why you use Postgres, and if you read the document, it says using Redis for caching sessions. What I think is that after being working and actually figuring out that this is not going to be used by many people now, you change that to use SQLite. That's what I think. I don't know. Maybe that's not correct.
I mean, personally, I didn't even know any of the technologies, so I thought it was a little bit weird that we were supposed to say what technology we are going to use in the scope, because that's something we find out when researching the problem or working on the problem.
Oh, that's
then we
interesting.
find out what fits the actual problem.
Right. That's interesting.
I just thought it was a little bit strange.
Sorry. The other thing for me, in terms of this project, the problem wasn't how do we deploy this to production, but the problem was how do we learn the most. And to me, the solution to that is let's use something like SQLite, which comes with Django for free, rather than having to worry about me getting Memcache installed on my machine, Adrian getting Memcache installed on his machine, and then worrying about the same problem in production. So the focus was on how can we move fast and learn stuff rather than how can we build a cool product that'll scale and people will use it.
Yeah, so that's the main thing I think that you have to have in mind when building a new site or doing your current job, because in that way the problem itself will present to you in a more consistent way. It's not going to be something that you made up.
Correct.
Yeah. So
it's like avoiding premature optimization, you know?
Yeah. But it's very good that you already have a site on production, because that means that you sort that issue and you understand what the problem was. Right? So,
yes.
So guys, let's wrap it up. I don't want to continue anybody's time anymore. If you guys have any final comments you want to do to the project, feel free to do it now, and then we can just set the jury free, and the guys too, because I know it's pretty late.
My last comment is just to say thank you very much to all the guys in the jury. We know they have spent some time reading the specification of the project, and of course they spend time here in the session, and time is valuable for everyone, so thank you very much for being here.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you all, guys. This is a very great way to meet new people.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that's it. Any extra comment you want to say?
No,
cool, thanks for.
I'm saying congratulations. You did it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, guys. Thank you all very much. You're in touch. If anybody has questions, feel free to keep it up after this. Thank you again. Thank you again to Adrian's and Gordon. We see here Gordon was already presented. Feel free to reach us if you have any other question.
Yeah, same for me. You can reach me by email. No, it's no problem.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank people. You guys. See you later.
Thank you very much.
See you tomorrow, Fred.
See you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, guys.